Hi, I'm Dave with Twilight Designs. We are an authorized Gemstone lights dealer located in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm going to walk you through an installation that we did at my own home and hit on some of the most important points to consider when you're installing your own Gemstone light system. Some points to remember as you begin your installation. A 400 watt controller can power 225 linear feet of Gemstone lights. The data signal that's put out by your main controller can carry much further, but if you're exceeding 225 feet, you will need to install an additional transformer downstream to ensure that you don't have any voltage drop problems. Before you begin installing any track, ensure that you've got power at the receptacle that you intend to plug your controller into, and set up your customer's account. Make sure that you've got adequate Wi-Fi at the point that you are going to be installing the controller. Then, set the system to an RGBW white color. This will ensure that each pixel is using the maximum amount of power, and keep the system on while you're installing tracks. This will help you to identify any problematic connections or voltage drop issues as you go. You will need to run one 14-2 booster cable for every 75 feet of Gemstone lights.
2 wires. You gotta run 2, you gotta take it all down around a second one. That's why.
So for a 225 foot installation, you will have to install 3 booster cables within the track. As an authorized Gemstone dealer, you should have already made an inventory purchase, ensuring that you've got enough of all different types of cables and connectors to complete at least a few installations. When your job-specific materials purchase arrives, I recommend going through it and at least checking on a few things. Number 1, ensure that the color of the track matches your documentation of the surface that you intend to mount it against. Number 2, make sure that you've ordered enough of the right size screws that match that color track.
You guys take all the screws.
And number 3, make sure that you've got enough 14-2 wire, as it's not always easy to tell how many feet are left on a spool. Depending on how many boost cables you're using per job, this material can be consumed fairly quickly. Now that your Gemstone lighting controller is installed, powered on, and connected to Wi-Fi, you're ready to start beginning to install tracks. You're going to want to begin installing track at the point closest to the controller. And remember, you need one 14-2 booster cable for every 75 feet of lights.
2 wires.
You will need all of your booster cables within that track as you begin the track installation. When you're ready to start installing the Gemstone LED pixels into the aluminum tracks, you'll find that the pixels are packaged in groups of 9. 9 pixels is enough to fill one uncut aluminum track. My recommendation is that as soon as you undo the twist tie for those 9 pixels, you go through and hand tighten each of the 3-pin connectors. For the few Gemstone light service calls we've had, nearly every single one of them has been related to either a 3-pin connector that was not hand tightened or one that was not properly seated. If you go through, check these connections and tighten them as soon as you undo the twist tie, you can eliminate future service calls, and it's just a good habit. You'll notice in the video of the installation at my own home that for a period of time we worked in 2 different directions. This is because we utilized a bucket truck and only one person could complete this work efficiently. So we had some guys working from the controller in one direction, and I worked in the bucket truck over to my guys. As soon as we converged at one point, we made sure to make our connections and test everything to ensure we hadn't created any problems that weren't identified by working with the full system on. Gemstone Lights does a pretty good job of providing instructional videos on how to cut each different type of track that they offer. Because of that, I'm not going to dive into the specifics of how to cut each type of track. The best way to learn is to watch the videos, take your time, and get some good field experience with each type of track that you'll be using. When jumping from one story to the next of a home, or transitioning across peaks, you'll want to install the appropriately sized extension cable. Remember to inject power via a booster cable
2 wires.
in between the last 2 pixels before you install the extension, and again in between the first 2 pixels as you continue your track installation on the other side of the peaker level. By the time you've hung your last track, you'll be looking at a system that's nearly complete. Because you previously programmed the Gemstone app on your client's device, you may have already tested out a few of the pre-programmed patterns by logging into their account on your own device. At last, make sure all cables are hidden and neatly installed. Make sure you're familiar with the app and show your client the finished project. They'll never have to hang lights again.